Hey there, wizards. How's it going? Are you just arriving here at the Leaky Cauldron? Then, don't be a muggle. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you can stay up to date with everything that's going on here.
Don't forget you can join the channel for exclusive benefits, like badges by your name and emojis for commenting, okay? You can also highlight your comment using the thanks button.
Or you can send your question to Forado. The QR code is on the screen or the link is in the description.
With over 1,000 years of existence, Hogwarts has already trained many talented wizards and witches. Let's be honest, a lot of people who weren't good came from there too. With so many years of existence, many staff members who passed through there left their marks and worldviews on the school. So, today I'm going to present a ranking for you with the 7 worst headmasters of Hogwarts according to my opinion.
I'm going to start from the last to the first place. But before that, let me share something really cool with you and also ask for your help.
I'm competing in 2 categories at the iBest Award, which is the biggest award on the internet. And to qualify for the next stage, I need to get votes. So, I would be really happy if you, who enjoy my work here at Caldeiraofurado, could vote for me.
The links are here, in the pinned comment and in the video description.
There are 2 categories, Influencer of the City of São Paulo and YouTuber of the Year, alright? Click the link to vote. Thank you. In last place on our ranking of the worst headmasters of Hogwarts, I put Eupraxia Mole. She was the headmistress of Hogwarts in the 1870s.
In the year 1876, the caretaker of Hogwarts was a guy named Hankerus Carp,
and he came up with a trap to get rid of Peeves from Hogwarts, because he was fed up with Peeves. However, it went very wrong, and Hogwarts had to be evacuated for 3 days because Peeves was threatening to kill the students. Then, Eupraxia Mole, as the headmistress, negotiated with Peeves and gave him some benefits so that he would surrender and get rid of the weapons he was using, which he had taken from the castle's armor. Among the privileges were 1 swim per week in the ground floor, boys' bathroom, access to old bread from the kitchen to throw at the students, and a custom-made hat by Madame Bonhabide, who was a famous hat designer from France. Eupraxia Mole also enchanted the Daedalus keys to protect the contents of cabinets scattered throughout Hogwarts from falling into the wrong hands. And why does she take 7th place on our list?
Well, first, because the list of headmasters and headmistresses isn't that long. And even though there are a few names, many of them don't have much story behind them. All they have is the year they held the position and a few good things they did. Some don't even have that, just the year.
To create this ranking, I looked at mistakes by headmasters. Eupraxia Mole ranks 7th for making a deal with Peeves, right? She let him throw stale bread at the kids.
Okay, considering that he wanted to kill the students, throwing bread is nothing in comparison.
But looking at this from the perspective of a school administrator who was supposed to take care of the students, that ends up putting her in this ranking here. Besides that, she enchanted the flying keys to protect the contents of the cabinets, but left the keys flying around, escaping throughout the school for anyone to grab. So, I don't know. I think there's a more effective way to protect that, and that's why Eupraxia Mole is in 7th place.
It's not a bad position for her, because 7th place is actually a pretty good spot.
The real problem begins with the next positions. Taking 6th place in our ranking of the worst Hogwarts headmasters is Armando Dippet. He was the headmaster of Hogwarts before Dumbledore, up until around 1965.
During his administration, the Chamber of Secrets was opened and a student died. It's not his fault. He didn't kill anyone or open the Chamber of Secrets.
But the school was under his responsibility, and that's pretty serious. But that's not all. Besides the case of the student's death, which is already pretty serious in itself, Hogwarts was also almost set on fire during Armando Dippet's term because of a Valentine's Day play put on by students and teachers, where a fire-dwelling creature ended up setting everything on fire, and a lot of staff and students had to go to the hospital wing because of this terrible accident. But besides that, he's also in this position because of the way he ended up dealing with the person responsible for the student's death at Hogwarts. Tom Riddle at the time goes there and asks to stay at Hogwarts even during the summer holidays.
He had to return to the orphanage, which he hated and didn't want to do.
So he writes a letter to Armando Dippet, and Armando Dippet calls him to the office and says, "Look, you can't stay, because, look at all that's happening at the school.
Until the person behind these attacks is caught, the school must close, understand?
If we don't find who's responsible, the school will have to close, and you won't be allowed here, even during regular hours. Then, amazingly, the culprit appears the next day.
And who found him? It was Tom Riddle, who set the trap for Hagrid, and Armando Dippet simply accepted Tom Riddle's statement. It was Hagrid.
He had a monster there, the one that killed the girl. They didn't look into how she died, what the monster did, or what Hagrid had.
He just agreed to expel Hagrid. It's a good thing Hagrid wasn't arrested or anything like that.
Since it was seen as an accident, an accidental death, Hagrid wasn't held criminally responsible, but he was expelled and had his wand destroyed.
Nobody knew what was happening or who was responsible for the attack.
Then, when Tom Riddle realizes he can't stay at Hogwarts because it's closing, he looks for someone to blame, right?
Armando Dippet accepts it without issue. So that's why he's taking this 6th place on our list, because of this combination of factors. And taking our 5th place, this one here.
I'm sure there will be people who won't agree with me, who will argue with me. In 5th place, Severus Snape. Severus Snape takes our 5th place. Because, you see, he was a headmaster during Voldemort's regime. A dark time. A really dark time to be a headmaster.
Especially considering his role, right? Since he was a spy there.
And he was, the whole time, trying to protect Hogwarts.
And to maintain his position, he had to turn a blind eye to some things.
Like students being tortured. I get that, but seriously, we're talking about Snape. He's powerful. Couldn't he try to slip a little poison into one of the Carrows' drinks by accident, you know? To try to ease the situation. Cast a spell on the Carrows without them noticing. Because the Carrows were kind of dumb, right? They were like that, completely clueless, right? So Severus was way above their level. So, I don't know, it's fine. Then Voldemort could get suspicious. What happened there, wow? And that could be worse. It could make the situation worse. So, the fact that Snape needs to keep up an act is understandable, and him not intervening is also understandable. But I assure you, for the students who were tortured, that doesn't mean much.
Even so, later they realize, wow, Snape was just acting, huh?
He was pretending to protect us all along. Can they understand that later? Yes.
But at the moment when everything was falling apart, for them, Snape was a terrible headmaster.
Snape could have used, I don't know, the excuse of the cursed defense against the dark arts position, since one of the Carrows taught dark arts, which was the same job. Then just say to Voldemort, you cursed the position. No teacher ever lasts here. Look, see? Look, Carrow, the boy Carrow, ate something at breakfast that he was allergic to. Look, see? It went bad. No, just kidding. Snape is in 5th place here. That's why he was playing a role. He needed to cover up the wrong to keep doing the right thing.
But simply looking from the perspective of the students who were tortured, of those who were going through that.
I think he could have tried to ease things a bit, in a way, for those students. Tried to punish a bit more the students who enjoyed torturing others.
I know it's a very, very difficult position. A very difficult position he was in.
But considering his expertise, his level, his power, I believe he could have done something without making it obvious.
Tell me, I don't know. Don't you think Snape could have done something without making it obvious? Like, really well hidden? Man, he was a great Occlumens. He could hide things from Voldemort, so I think he could do it. I think he could have eased up a bit there. I know he did that, right? He sends Neville, Luna, and Ginny to serve detention with Hagrid in the Forbidden Forest.
That's a big break, right? They tried to steal the sword of Gryffindor from the office. Still, I think he could have gone easier.
That's why he takes our 5th place on this list. And in 4th place on our list of the worst headmasters Hogwarts has ever had.
Albus Dumbledore. Albus Dumbledore in 4th place, the greatest headmaster Hogwarts has ever had, undeniably.
I love Dumbledore, but let's be honest, he deserves this spot here, 4th place.
Man, Dumbledore made some mistakes. Well, it wasn't even really a mistake.
We know he wanted to let Harry prove himself, let Harry figure things out on his own and build his own worth there. But man, as a school administrator, that's pretty lame. In the first year, he brings the Philosopher's Stone to the school, aware a dark wizard may try to steal it. In fact, they had already tried to steal it at Gringotts the day Harry got his money and supplies. So he says, man, I'm going to bring it inside the school, full of kids here, and keep it inside. Did he know you'd have to be really, really crazy to try to get the stone there? He did. But there was a spy there, right?
Quirrell infiltrated, right? He was with Voldemort. Dumbledore already suspected him.
There's a memory where he tells Snape to watch Quirrell, showing he knew there was some danger.
Dumbledore was aware of a certain danger.
Then he puts Fluffy there, who's a three-headed crazy killer dog. Simply in the same place where hundreds of kids sleep, a school. Oh, but the third-floor corridor was forbidden, in a school full of teenagers who don't care about rules, who love to mess around. It's crazy. It's kind of crazy. Does it fit the story's context?
It might even make sense, but let's look at it from the administration's point of view. Dumbledore running the school.
That's crazy. Come on.
Not to mention that he wants to hide the Philosopher's Stone. He wants to keep the Philosopher's Stone from the person who wants to steal it.
So, what does he do? Challenges to be solved because it's only fair. Challenges to be solved to get the Philosopher's Stone. That was a way to slow down anyone trying to get it, since at the end they'd reached the mirror but couldn't take it due to the spell allowing only someone who didn't want to use the stone to get it.
Only Harry manages to do it. 1 in a million. Still, let's admit it's dangerous.
Besides that, the door guarding Fluffy could be opened with a simple spell they learned. In the second year, they could have reinforced security there, right? Not to mention the other incidents while Dumbledore was running the school, right? Not to mention that contract with Lockhart. Knowing that Lockhart was a crook, a thief. Lockhart was a crook, a sneaky thief who stole things from others and told stories as if they were his own.
A crook, a scoundrel, a real swindler, a bad character, dirty, filthy. He hires Lockhart on purpose, just to prove that Lockhart was a scoundrel, a crook.
He adds, no, because students can learn from a teacher like Lockhart by seeing an example not to follow.
But, alright, if that can put students' lives at risk, right?
They nearly erased the memory of 2 students who exposed the scam. Good thing it failed, right?
If not for Ron's wand. And in third year, when Dumbledore didn't step in and say, no, I'll handle this. Guys, look, Sirius Black is here. He's innocent. I made a mistake when I testified against him years ago because I believed this information. But the reality is that he's innocent. Look, I was wrong too. We can prove that he was innocent because we have a time turner here. Look, let's go back in time and go to the place to see everything that's happening. No, what does he do? Hermione, grab that time turner you're using to attend classes. And you and Harry, at 13 years old, you can solve this whole problem. You can just use the most dangerous magic there is, which is altering time, going back in time. Just go there and sort it out. Go on, Harry. Does it fit the story? It does. Does Dumbledore have more of an advisor role and not one of taking the initiative and doing things, letting Harry do things on his own?
He does. But remember, we're talking here about running the school.
Then he hires Lupin. Well, it's okay to hire Lupin, right? Because Lupin was taking the potion, so that's fine. But then he just says, no, I'm going to send this boy and this 13-year-old girl here to solve it. Because no one will believe me or them when we say that Sirius is innocent. Especially because what Snape is saying here is much easier to believe. The next year, when Voldemort returns, he tells the minister the truth. Voldemort is back. Harry also can't prove it, but he says it, you know? He says, look, he's back. Really, he's really back. Look, and then, in the 5th year, he stands up to the media there trying to discredit him and Harry, and he insists, saying, no, look, he's back. What we're saying, he's really back.
The Ministry claims no proof, the disappearances, the deaths, but he still insists he's back.
Why, in The Prisoner of Azkaban, doesn't he do that? Why doesn't he do that with Sirius, to prove that Sirius was innocent? Like, look, he's innocent, you know? Anyway, in the Goblet of Fire,
the Triwizard Tournament is simply happening. He suspects what's going on because it's happening.
There was the disappearance of Bertha Jorkins, of Frank Bryce. Then, suddenly, Harry is put into the Triwizard Tournament. Dumbledore suspects that Voldemort is scheming to come back. Because, you know,
Wormtail escaped, and there was Trelawney's prophecy, saying that the servant would join his master before midnight and he would return.
Dumbledore knew because Harry told him, but still said, let Harry compete in the tournament, just to check something here. We know that Dumbledore always did things one step ahead. I'll repeat, I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. It does within the story and context. But looking at him as the headmaster, letting this happen, you can put him in 4th place. Come on.
Because, like, we're not analyzing the greater good here, right? Which was the fight against Voldemort, destroying Voldemort and all that.
We're analyzing the headmasters, how they managed the school, right? So that's pretty dangerous. Then, in year 5, Dumbledore stays away, right? He's sidelined, but then he comes back, takes over as headmaster again and all that.
Dumbledore is a powerful wizard I really like. There are several amazing videos about him here.
But as a headmaster, although he got a lot of things right, in this ranking here, he's going to end up in 4th place. In 3rd place on our list, we've reached the top 3. We've made it to the podium, huh? We've made it to the podium. Our 3rd place, bronze medal. Among the worst headmasters of Hogwarts is Elizabeth Burke. Elizabeth Burke was a plague of a headmistress at Hogwarts during an unknown period. She was from Slytherin. What a surprise, right? And she would simply let the Slytherin students. She encouraged Slytherin students to bully Muggle-born students, insult them, hex them, curse them. She encouraged Slytherin students, the purebloods, to be cruel to Muggle-borns.
Anyway, it's self-explanatory why she's got the bronze medal here, among the worst headmasters of Hogwarts, right? In 2nd place, silver medal, it's him, Phineas Nigellus Black, officially considered the least popular headmaster Hogwarts ever had. Sirius Black's great-great-grandfather was unbearable. He was disgusting. Even his portrait was unbearable. Even though his portrait was useful in the last book, giving a little help there, right?
And even celebrating Voldemort's defeat.
He, while alive, while he was headmaster, was a pest just like Elizabeth Burke.
The guy was so blatantly biased toward the Slytherins that they could do anything at the school.
Anything. Purebloods then could do anything.
The guy banned Quidditch because a pureblood student had been hurt in the previous year's championship, and then he just banned it because he was the son of important people at the time. And he had those connections.
And to stay on good terms with those connections practically ran the school. Because he ignored and covered up many things. Not to mention the extremely supremacist views he had, prejudiced enough to disown his own son, right?
Because the son disagreed with the family's views. That's already kind of a personal matter, right?
But it says a lot about him, because his view, was imposed at the school. So we can analyze that too. So he's here in our 2nd place, silver medal. In 1st place, gold medal. So no surprise at all, gold medal. The worst person who ever worked in the administration of Hogwarts of all time, Dolores Jane Umbridge.
First of all, she shouldn't even be here because she wasn't even recognized as the headmistress of Hogwarts. She wasn't recognized.
The gargoyle blocked her from entering the headmaster's office, so she remains in her own office even after taking the position. In other words, she wasn't recognized as headmistress by the school itself, but she held that position, so she's the worst. And it's self-explanatory why she holds that position. No need to give context. She was simply a disgrace. She tortured the students to validate her own points. She just spread lies, manipulated the truth. A denier.
And she's worse than Voldemort because she pretends to be nice.
That's the worst kind of person there is. The one who speaks softly, pretends to be a friend, gives gifts, tries to buy others, right?
Umbridge. That kind of person is a nasty person. A nasty and dangerous person, you know?
So Dolores Umbridge takes 1st place as the nastiest person to ever run Hogwarts.
Honestly, just hearing her say that Cedric died in an accident makes me sick, you know?
I feel like, look, Umbridge makes me feel like, oh my god. Peeves was lucky, hitting her on the head with his cane a bunch of times when she got kicked out of Hogwarts, you know? When she, bless me. Oh my god, I just want to smash those cat plates on her head.
All of them. Break all of them on her head, so each one of them would meow one by one. Man, what an unbearable, disgusting, wicked, hag old bag of a woman.
And this is my top 7 worst headmasters of Hogwarts. Tell me if you agree. If you disagree, put your top 7 here. You can add other headmasters or headmistresses. They don't have to be the ones I chose.
I picked these because, like, on a scale of things they've done, Of course, you can see the scale is really uneven, right? Even here on this list. One of them, like, oh, the theater play caught fire. The other, like, wow, made a deal with Pirata. All super chill.
Another one just tortured the students, but like, it's because that's what I said at the beginning of the episode.
We need to hold on to the details we have. And these are the details we have.
Tell me your top 7 worst principals here. I want to know, all right? I'll see you in the next episode of Caldeiraofurado. And until then, mischief managed. Don't forget to vote for me on iBest, okay?